We checked them already. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, and welcome to this webinar on the current situation in Palestine and the international solidarity movement. We have interpretation available in English, French, and Spanish, and you can type your questions in the chat box. We may ask them at the end of the webinar, which will run for about, let's say, a maximum of 1.5 hours. So after the recent ceasefire and exchange of captives in Gaza, we wanted to take stock of the situation. So that's why we're very happy to welcome Dr. Mustafa Barghouti, who is one of the pioneers of the People's Health Movement. But first and foremost, he's a Palestinian political leader and one of the sharpest Palestinian analysts in the international media. We will not just discuss the situation on the ground, but also the international solidarity movement. And that is why we have invited also two other comrades of the People's Health Movement who joined the flotilla to Gaza and who came back just recently. That's Dr. Hanne Bosselaers, family physician with Medicine for the People in Belgium, and Aziz Rali, who is a long-time health and human rights activist from Morocco. And I would like to start with you, Aziz, and ask you to describe briefly what happened to you, because I understood the flotilla was intercepted by Israel. Aziz, vous pouvez nous expliquer ce qui s'est passé?
Oui. Donc, bonjour tout le monde. J'espère que vous allez bien. Avant de commencer,
Okay. Hello, everyone, and I hope you're doing very well. Before we start, I would like to thank you all for solidarity with the movement. Regarding what has happened, the blockade started in the frontier. There was a caravan from Tunisia going through Egypt, and after this blockade, I started thinking that we should do something different. So then, with the blockade in Gaza, we wanted to include other states. We wanted to find a different method. That was a debate. And we got together with several movements. We agreed, although there were some differences, and we started moving towards Gaza. The participants were around 467 from different countries, 3 different countries. We were carrying medicine and food, and we know the numbers are symbolic, of course. The idea was to debunk the blockade. It went to the media, and that was our objective in part, because we wanted to show how the Zionist state of Israel would react to that. The vessels were not supposed to be longer than 10 meters, for example, according to them. With regard to our trajectory, we started in September in Tunisia, and from then on, it was quite violent. We were intercepted, the flotillas were intercepted. The first vessel was intercepted 60 miles away from the point where we started. And in our case, 2 of our vessels went up to 25 miles before the coast. What I mean is that we were only 2 hours away when we were intercepted. We were 2 hours away from Gaza when we were intercepted. But unfortunately, because of Israel's intervention and their occupying forces, more specifically, we were intercepted, and the treatment was honestly terrible. We were intercepted during the night. We didn't want to give away the names of the other vessels. There were other ones coming from the Palestinian region to show that our action was including solidarity with Palestine. So the objective was to show there is a continuity of genocide that's been going on since 1947 against the Palestinian people. We spent the night in the vessel, and there were different nationalities, like people from Algeria, Tunisia, Ireland, the US. There were people from many different countries. They asked women to go into a separate room. They were sheltered from water and cold, but the American man had a little hemorrhage, for example, but I'm not going to go into details, at least now.
Et il est venu pour nous lire son discours sur qu'on est des terroristes, qu'on est des gens qui aident Hamas.
Some soldiers were verifying whether there were people from Hamas in the vessel, and we started shouting, "Viva Palestina! Long live Palestine!"
Donc, il a pu stopper ce cercle-là et partir. Et tout ce qui s'est passé à Ashdod a donné une charge très positive aux participants qu'on est prêt à garder notre dignité et lutter et le faire entendre ce qu'il ne veut pas entendre.
Positive in the sense that we were able to preserve our dignity. We were able to shout, "Palestina will be free." And we were transported to a prison. It's very big. There are about 10,000 Palestinian people there. And if we want to take stock, I'd say the conditions are still difficult. We were relieved at some point because there were several different nationalities and we were all together. So our conditions were not that bad, but many of the participants were beaten. Every night they would wake us up to count how many we were, and we started protesting because one of us needed insulin. So we started protesting, and they came with armed forces and dogs just to count how many we were. And they told us they wouldn't give insulin to terrorists. So they kept calling us terrorists. Then we went before a judge and we were explaining that, for example, in my case, I said that what was most important was not to talk about Morocco, but rather that we were intercepted in international waters.
Parce que les Israéliens, ils ont confisqué tous les bateaux qui étaient, sauf 3 bateaux qu'on a réussi à les faire couler parce que les directives sur lesquelles on a parlé, c'est que si il y a la possibilité de faire couler les navires, on peut le faire parce qu'on sait que pour couler un navire, il faut 4 à 5 heures. Donc, il y aura le temps pour que les gens seront sauvés, mais que les Israéliens ne bénéficient pas des bateaux. Il y avait la sortie de la première vague. Pour mon cas, on est resté 6 personnes.
Some other people who were still at sea, but Israelis said they wouldn't send a vessel
Pour moi, la
for that.
situation elle est claire.
In
Ils ont
my
commencé même
cell, we
à ouvrir
were 6
une enquête
people.
avec moi sur ma position avec la résistance, soit avec Hamas, soit avec le FLP, soit avec Hezbollah, sur mon passé. J'ai refusé de répondre parce qu'il n'y a pas d'avocat. Et les interrogatoires, ils étaient le soir. Donc, ils étaient obligés de nous emmener dans d'autres cellules qu'ils qualifient, eux, des cellules de correction. Et dans ces cellules, elles ne sont pas dans les bâtiments, elles sont isolées dans une zone un peu désertique avec un climat saharien. On a même, lorsqu'on était dans ces cellules, commencé à entendre les bombardements sur Gaza. Et tout le temps, il y avait des F-16 qui survolent vers Gaza, c'est-à-dire il y avait la continuité de la guerre. Pour moi, ce qui m'a marqué plus, c'est les histoires écrites sur les murs. Sur les murs de ces cellules de correction, il y a encore du sang sur le mur. Il y a même des traces, des écrits des gens qui ont subi la torture avec leur nom et beaucoup de choses. Donc, tout ce qui a été écrit sur les murs, c'était des histoires des gens qui ont passé par ces cellules. Après l'arrivée de Madeleine, l'île Madeleine, c'est-à-dire le deuxième convoi de bateau, ils nous ont encore une fois placés de les mêmes cellules qu'avant. Et les avocats, c'est-à-dire de l'association Adala, que je tiens vraiment à remercier parce qu'ils ont été au soutien de tout le monde. Ils étaient notre lien de connexion avec l'extérieur. Ils ont mené des discussions avec les Turcs et avec l'île Madeleine, s'ils peuvent nous emmener vers eux, c'est-à-dire vers la Turquie, après on part. Donc, c'était les choses. Le dernier jour, ils sont venus pour essayer de nous forcer à signer une demande d'aller vers le Maroc. Personnellement, avec les Norvégiens, on a résisté, on n'a rien signé. Au contraire, on a demandé l'ouverture d'une enquête sur la situation dans laquelle on était, et de même sur la mise dans des cellules d'isolation sans jugement, sans rien du tout. Je pense que c'est un peu de ce qui s'est passé. J'étais 10 jours dans les prisons israéliennes. Mais le plus important pour nous, c'est que les objectifs de la flottille, je pense qu'on a atteint pas mal d'objectifs, surtout la question médiatique. On a mis beaucoup le point sur la question de Gaza durant les 16 jours où les bateaux étaient sur la mer. Il y avait beaucoup de choses. Il y avait la mobilisation en Italie, la mobilisation en Espagne, en France, dans pas mal de pays, ainsi que dans les pays de la région. Pour l'avenir, je viens même d'atterrir de la Tunisie. On essaie un petit peu de refaire la même chose. On est sur le point d'organiser une autre flottille plus importante que la première, qui sera dans les alentours du mois de mars. On va essayer d'attendre un petit peu comment les choses vont se passer avec Rafah. Si les choses ne vont pas dans le bon sens, et d'ailleurs ce qui s'est passé aujourd'hui montre que les Israéliens veulent encore une fois revenir en guerre, on a déjà commencé les discussions pour avoir une flottille plus importante, c'est-à-dire qui avoisine les 100 bateaux qui vont prendre le large de la Tunisie vers la fin du mois de mars à l'occasion de la journée de la Terre. Donc, c'est un peu ce que je peux vous dire. S'il y a des questions, je peux vous répondre. Et encore une fois, merci à tous les camarades qui m'ont soutenu dans cette épreuve-là, qui rentrent dans notre logique de PHM. En tant que des militants de terrain, on était parmi les premières organisations qui ont qualifié ce qui se passe à Gaza d'un génocide. On a fait beaucoup de choses et il nous reste beaucoup de choses à faire. Merci à tout le monde.
Merci beaucoup, Aziz.
We know Gaza is a genocide and there's still a lot to be done.
It's a terrible experience, but I think you're right. In the end, there's also been a lot of achievements by this whole movement. And before we go to Dr. Mustafa about the situation today, I would also like to ask Hanne about her experience. And especially in spite of this this ordeal that was shared by us, that was shared to us by Aziz. What was for you the highlight of the flotilla? Hanne.
Hello everybody.
Oui, un petit point. Je m'excuse, docteur Barghouti. J'ai oublié que depuis notre arrestation, c'est-à-dire 10 jours, tous les participants au moins du Maroc, l'Algérie et la Tunisie, on est rentré dans
I'm
une grève
sorry,
de
but
faim
I
pendant 10
forgot
jours,
to say
y compris
something.
2 jours de grève de faim et
There
d'eau.
was
Okay, so let's go to Hanne.
a starvation strike.
See that some people
Also.
say interpretation is not working. I checked out. Okay, seems to be better now. I checked out English and that was working fine. But okay, go ahead.
Working well. It's working well. Thank you.
Hanne?
Okay. Hello, everybody. I would also like to thank PHM for inviting me today. I was participating on the second wave of the flotillas on the Conscience, which was a larger ship from Freedom Flotilla Coalition. On this ship, we were 92 medics and journalists. So this ship was dedicated to solidarity with these two groups in Gaza. Of course, we all know that journalists and all medical health workers were targeted in the genocide. And we know that this was for a specific reason. Of course, when you are committing a genocide, you don't want anyone to witness or to bring out the truth. So that's why more than 250 journalists were murdered in Gaza. And if you want to perpetrate a genocide, you don't want people to save lives. So all health workers, all hospitals were targeted heavily. More than 1,500 health workers were killed in Gaza since 7th of October 23. So we were sailing the Conscience in deep solidarity with journalists and medics in Gaza. And of course, our goal was to break the siege, to arrive to the shores of Gaza and to be able to enter and help our colleagues to stay in hospitals and to stay to broadcast what is happening during the genocide. In any conflict zone, humanitarian workers and journalists should have access. But we were, same as Global Summit Flotilla, intercepted by the Israeli occupation forces even farther than the Madeleine. So we were intercepted more than 200 kilometers from the coast of Palestine, which was a premiere and which shows that the Israeli government is really very afraid of these flotillas because they draw a lot of attention and they raise the pressure. We will come back to that. For me, the highlight in participating on the Conscience was especially the solidarity between us, between the participants coming from 22 different countries. We had a marvelous team of medics. We were taking care of each other very well on board. We had participants from 21 years old till 84. So a very diverse team, but very connected to Gaza. Many of the medics worked in Gaza before. Many of the journalists had close contact with Palestinian journalists or worked together with local media agencies. So there was really this very deep connection. And one of the most beautiful moments we had while sailing on the Conscience was when we organized a video call with our colleagues from Ouda, the Palestinian health NGO. So we called Mohammed Salah and Jehan Al-Aklouk, the director of the Al-Ouda Hospital and the vice director of Ouda NGO. And it was a very deep and dear conversation because, yeah, we talked about how we should have the right to arrive in Gaza and to bring our aid and to be able to see each other and to share our solidarity and to continue preserving health for the people in Gaza. So they were very hopeful that we would arrive, and we were very determined to arrive. But unfortunately, we were stopped. But it only encouraged us. They tried everything in the prisons, as Aziz told, to discourage us, to humiliate us, to make us have fear or to be broken. But that didn't work at all. We were very dignified, and we only thought about all the Palestinian prisoners that were just one wall away of us. People that didn't say goodbye to their families, that were just taken from their schools, from their homes, from their hospitals, and that were put in these horrible prisons for nobody knows how long. So we need to continue our struggle to liberate all Palestinian hostages, and especially to stop Israel's genocide on Gaza. They are violating the ceasefire all the time. And I'm sure Mustafa Barghouti will tell us more about why this is going on. So thank you.
So thank you, Aziz and Hanne, two wonderful examples of international solidarity. And Hanne's story also brings us closer to the situation in Gaza. And that's also our question, of course, to Mustafa. Now with the ceasefire, the genocide in Gaza appears to be entering a new phase. And would you agree with Aziz and Hanne that the international solidarity campaigns like the flotilla have contributed to the ceasefire? And what's your take on the new situation that has developed now since last week?
Thank you. Thank you, Im, and I'm glad to be with all of you in PHM. And I want to thank in particular Hanne and Aziz for their participation in the flotilla. They and everybody else from so many different countries that have participated in promoting the international solidarity with the Palestinian people. I think this is a very noble activity and a very noble position of those who can live peacefully anywhere they want, but they take the risk, they risk their lives to be in solidarity with the Palestinian people. And I'm very glad that the flotilla has grown so big. I mean, I was in the first ships of the flotilla and when we managed to arrive in Gaza at that time, 4 times before they destroyed the ship. But it is amazing how to see how this international movement have become so powerful. And yes, I agree. I think the ceasefire happened only because there was 2 factors: the steadfastness and heroism of the people of Gaza, and the steadfastness and heroism of the Palestinian people in general, but also because of the international global solidarity movement, which has become a revolution, a true revolution of international solidarity worldwide. And it is not a coincidence that we all know that Trump is absolutely and totally on the side of Israel. We know that he's completely with Israel. He was speaking in the Israeli Knesset saying that he was proud of supplying Israel with weapons that he even didn't know about and that were never used before. And he was speaking with pride that Israel used them in a very powerful way. And of course, meaning that they killed 70 or more thousand people and injured more than 170,000 others. But Trump interfered. He exposed the reality of why he interfered. He said he came to break the isolation that Israel is in, to save Israel from isolation. And he said to Netanyahu, when he pushed him to accept the ceasefire, that you have to understand, telling Netanyahu that Netanyahu cannot fight the whole world. Who are the whole world? It's you, the international solidarity movement. Who created that isolation? It's you. And your wonderful work, whether you are in medical care or in journalism or in any other form of solidarity, we imposed the siege on them. We, the besieged people by occupation and by apartheid and by discrimination and by terrible occupation, the longest in modern history, we besieged Israel, the fascist Israel that is committing all these crimes. And I want to say that, yes, the ceasefire was declared, the war was declared to be over, but it's not over. And since the ceasefire was established, Israel violated it 70 times up till now, including today by conducting airstrikes on 20 different areas in Gaza. So far, they've killed, since ceasefire was declared, 50 people, mostly children. The day before yesterday, they committed a horrible massacre when they bombarded a little van which had a family in it, a father, a mother, and 4 of their children, and his sister, and 3 of her children, and her husband. 11 people in one hit. And where? Inside Gaza City, in Zaytun neighborhood. But now, at this very moment, the Israeli bombardment is growing very fast, and they are attacking all the areas of Gaza, which tells you how fragile this ceasefire is. At the same time, Netanyahu insisted on violating the agreement by preventing the opening of Rafah crossing, which should have been opened already. And Rafah crossing is very vital, not only to bring in supplies to Gaza, but also because it's the only way through which the injured people can get out for treatment, or patients who need medical care outside Gaza can get out. And it's the only way through which some of our people who are stuck in outside Gaza can come back. So he is still blocking Rafah crossing. They are squeezing the humanitarian aid to Gaza in the worst possible way. Gaza needs at least 1,000 trucks of humanitarian aid every day. The agreement says they should allow 600 trucks every day, but they haven't allowed more than 140 on most of the days. Sometimes, in the best case, they allowed 400 trucks once. And the humanitarian situation is still very bad. But the blockage is not only about the quantity, it's also about the quality. For instance, they are preventing the entrance of any medical equipment. And they are preventing the passage of medical material and medications and medicine that we need very badly at this moment. They are preventing any construction material from getting to Gaza. And you know that almost 90% of all homes in Gaza are destroyed. Most institutions are destroyed. And still they are not allowing, up till now, any serious supplies to help alleviate the suffering that people are in because of the Israeli destruction. But not only that, they are also not implementing the agreement in terms of withdrawal of their army from Gaza. Up till now, the Israeli army is setting foot and is still present in more than 50% of Gaza Strip. And they talk about the fact, I mean, all their captives who are alive were delivered on the same day. About 12 of the bodies of the people killed were also delivered. And by the way, these captives that were killed by Israel. They were killed by Israeli bombardment. And Hamas said that they cannot get many of the bodies because the bodies are under the rubble, very deep under the ground, with the people, not only of the Israeli captives, but also with the people who guarded them. So they're all under the rubble, and Israel is not allowing a single bulldozer to enter Gaza to help in removing the rubble. And some of the bodies are in the area that Israeli army is still there, still occupying. So, and yet Israel uses the fact that not all bodies could be delivered as a justification for their continuous attacks on Gaza. By the way, everybody speaks about the 48 Israeli prisoners of war, as I call them, and hostages, as they call them. But nobody says a word about the Palestinian captives. Nobody says a word about the 12,000 Palestinians who are still in Israeli jails, including no less than 400 children, including no less than 3,650 people who are under the so-called administrative detention, which means they are held in jail without knowing why, without charges, without legal process. These are our captives too. And nobody says a word about the fact that Israel is still withholding, imagine, 700 bodies of Palestinians killed by Israel. Some of these bodies have been held by Israel since 50 years. Some of these bodies are of 33 Palestinian prisoners who died in Israeli jails. And Israel insists on keeping their body to finish their term of imprisonment, which could be life sentence. So you're keeping a dead body to serve life sentence. Look at the contradiction. But that is the reality of their policy. Now, the most important thing is that we are facing now a very serious Israeli escalation. But I want also to speak about the deteriorating and difficult health and medical conditions. We have 17,000 Palestinian injured people who need medical treatment and who need surgery outside Gaza, because the facilities in Gaza are not sufficient to treat them. And Israel is still preventing them from leaving by closing Rafah checkpoint. We have many patients with cancer. We have many patients with very serious chronic diseases. There is a father of a young boy who has very serious complicated heart problem that needs heart surgery. And I've been trying already for 6 months to find a way through World Health Organization to get him out without any success up till now. But they are not only preventing and the provision of medical material. In the last month of the war, Israel started specifically targeting medical centers, especially medical centers of Palestinian Medical Relief Society, the organization that I'm with. And they called the people in some of the main centers in Gaza City and told them, we will target medical relief. It was clearly an act of revenge. Up to now, they've destroyed 11 of our clinics completely. And the 2 main centers that had the best equipment in Gaza to serve the population of Gaza Strip have all been destroyed. And it is really, really very heartbreaking to see that structures and clinics that we spent 30 years building were being destroyed in just a couple of minutes. So the medical services are suffering a lot. You know, many other facilities, including Al-Auda, were attacked. Many Shifa hospital was attacked. 94% of all hospitals were bombarded. So, but the level of destruction we are enduring now is very serious. And that tells you a lot about their goal of depriving people from any kind of medical care. In my opinion, nobody should think that the war is over in Gaza. The war is still going on. And the international solidarity movement should not only not stop, but should increase in its quantitatively and qualitatively, because the suffering is still there. And the only way to constrain Israel, as life has shown, is the combination of Palestinian steadfastness, resilience, and resistance with a strong and powerful international solidarity movement. So we need more of that. We need you to help us with putting in place the utmost possible amount of support and activity. We need to enhance the boycott, divestment sanctions against the Israeli occupation, because our goal is not just to end the war on Gaza. Our goal is to achieve freedom. Our goal is to end occupation. Our goal is to end the system of apartheid that we are subjected to. I want also to say a few words about the West Bank, because also in the West Bank, the situation is horrible. I've just broadcasted, I don't know if I sent it to some of you, a scene or a video of Israeli terrorist settlers, gangs of terrorists attacking Palestinians who are trying to harvest their olive tree. In one case, in Al-Mghayr village near Ramallah, the terrorist settler attacked a woman and hit her with heavily, and I don't know what happened to her, but probably he caused her a very serious head injury. And at this moment, most Palestinians are unable to harvest their olive trees. And you know, olive trees are the most important agricultural field for the Palestinian farmers. at this moment, most of our people are unable to harvest their olive trees because of Israeli settlers' attacks and protected by the Israeli army. Or more than that, the Israeli army has imposed 1,000 military checkpoints all over the West Bank, cutting it into pieces. They've built in the last 2 years 22 illegal new settlements, but also created 111 new settlement outposts, each of which could become a new settlement. And they practically confiscated 32% of the land of the West Bank. It's a horrible situation, and the attacks on Palestinian communities continue every day, whether we are talking about the West Bank, including Jerusalem, or whether we are talking about specific areas where Palestinians have been evicted from their land, like in the Jordan Valley, where already 60 communities have been evicted by Israeli illegal settlers. Of course, people are steadfast and they struggle with every possible way, and they are turning to grassroots organization to protect themselves from settlers and the Israeli army. But it's a very big challenge. Also, it must be known that Israel intentionally is hurting the economy of the West Bank, and practically West Bank is under full Israeli military occupation. Even the Palestinian Authority has been deprived from most of its authorities. And it is very important to remember that daily life is badly affected in every aspect of the world. So as you can see, we have lots of challenges in front of us. I want to say that with each solidarity action, this gives a big help and supports the morale of the people here in Palestine. So please keep doing it. And I'm very encouraged. I was in South Africa myself recently, and I went there with Jeremy Corbyn, and we attended so many solidarity activities there. And the people of South Africa told me that even in the best time of solidarity against apartheid, they've never seen such a level of mass demonstrations all over the world as we see today, which is very encouraging. When you look at Italy with 2 million people going out demonstrating, blocking and imposing practically a strike against the will of the Italian government. When you see the demonstration in London with 500,000 people, and before that with 1 million people, when you see that now the protests against Trump in the United States of America are always associated with carrying the Palestinian flags in solidarity with Palestine, that tells us all one thing, that Palestine, that the prophecy of Mandela is happening, that Palestine has become the most important moral issue of our time. And for that, we are very thankful to all of you, to all the people in solidarity with Palestinian people. Let me also say that not only Palestine is subjected to atrocities of occupation, I must say also Lebanon is. Every day there's an Israeli strike on Lebanon. Syria is, and every day there is an attack on Syria. So it's a whole region that is suffering from what Israel is doing. But we are very sure about the future. I know our people. I know how resilient and steadfast they are. And there is only one way in front of us, the way to victory and the way to overcome all these difficulties. Thank you so much.
Well, that's a very comprehensive and very detailed picture of the situation. And it's good also you mentioned this destruction of the PMRS headquarters and clinics, because it allows me to tell you that with the People's Health Movement, we are preparing to raise funds for PMRS, just like we did also for other organizations, health organizations in Gaza, for the reconstruction. And we're even negotiating with the Colombian government to support. And that brings me to another question, actually, because we've been discussing a lot the international solidarity of social organizations, but what about governments? Do you think that governments like Colombia, South Africa, other governments of the Global South have also played a role in bringing about the current situation? And what role do you see for did the Arab nations actually play? Can you also comment on that?
Well, yes, I thank you. This is a very good question. Of course, you can't put other governments in one basket. There is a difference between one country and another. Those who have been in the avant-garde are countries like Colombia and Spain, also Ireland, and some others, of course. But Spain was instrumental in imposing military embargo on Israel. They canceled at least $2 billion of military purchase from Israel. And that was very powerful. And the Spanish government has been really amazing in their consistent support to Palestine. Colombia has been in the avant-garde. The fact that Colombia boycotted all relations with Israel, and they've also stopped supplies of coal to Israel. I think Israel was importing most of its coal from two countries, Colombia and South Africa. When I was in South Africa, of course, I learned about so much support, but we also are having a campaign among the people of South Africa to demand that South Africa also stops supplying Israel with coal. And by the way, it's the same company that produces the coal in South Africa and Colombia. And this company was created by, it seems to be, at one point of time, by an Israeli who died later. South Africa was very good and great in rejecting the pressure on them to stop the case at the ICJ, the International Court of Justice, and they are proceeding with it. So South Africa is very important here. Also, I want to mention that all the pressures on the International Criminal Court, including imposing sanctions on their judges and prosecutor general, did not prevent ICC from insisting to proceed with the case of Netanyahu and Gallant. And that is also very encouraging. We hope that, I think many governments, even when you look at Britain, why did Britain recognize Palestine or France? Because their people pressured the governments. And it's that same mechanism that happened in the case of anti-apartheid struggle in South Africa. First, you change the people, then the people change the parliaments, then the parliaments change the governments. And the last to come will always be the United States of America, as a government. But the people of the United States are also changing very rapidly. We're so encouraged by the polls that are coming from there. For the first time in the history of USA, 51% of the people there are supporting Palestinians, much more than those who support Israel. And many people in the Democratic Party and even 37% of the Republican Party say that military supplies to Israel must stop. While in the case of the Democratic Party, it's 70%. The greatest change in the United States is happening at the level of the younger generation. And one very encouraging new figure was that 40% of young Jewish people support the right of the Palestinians. That is very dramatic. Now, when it comes to Arab countries, some Arab countries are already starting to feel what I expected and spoke about openly more than a year and a half ago, which is that the lack of response to supporting Palestinian people by some Arab governments will lead to internal instability and destabilization, because the people of these countries are very angry at the fact that their governments did not fulfill their duties. I think that feeling about the anger of the people in the Arab world has led many of these countries to pressure Trump to reach a ceasefire. So that is a factor that one has to take into consideration, especially after Israel attacked Qatar, because the attack on Qatar has shown all the Arab governments that they are not immune, that Israel will not abstain from attacking any country in the region. So I think that is helpful, and hopefully it will lead to better positions in the future. But I would be misleading you if I tell you that we are happy with the positions of these governments. We're happy with the people. We know that the peoples of the Arab world are all with us, but at the level of governments, much needs to be done.
Yes, that's right. In the meantime, I see that Dr. Laila from Jordan, who is a pediatric cardiologist, is offering help for the child with heart disease you mentioned. So we have your email addresses, so we can bring you in touch afterwards. And there's also later. So there's also some interesting questions, but maybe first, because we were discussing the Arab world, Aziz, I would like to ask you about the position of Morocco, because, for example, when Trump was speaking in the Knesset, he kept on referring to the Abraham Accords. For him, it was even a play of words. I think in the normalization, that means the normalization of the relations between Israel and the Arab countries, Morocco actually plays a key role. Can you briefly explain that to us?
Oui, merci, Wim. Je suis
Yes,
d'accord
of
avec
course.
Dr. Mustafa Barghouti en ce qui concerne
I
l'analyse
agree.
globale et internationale, mais la particularité de nos pays, c'est-à-dire des pays arabes,
But the particularity in the Arab countries should be analyzed in detail. The normalization between Morocco and Zionist states are not normalized because we don't have a frontier with them. But I mean, the first point is that after the war between Lebanon and Israel, when we saw that all Palestinian states were, that Palestine was targeted, we were able to produce drones in Morocco and intelligent missiles. So we try to offer military options against the Zionist state of Israel. We were also a bridge between the disarmament between US and Israel, but we are on the road. We've gone to we've been to the International Court to present a claim against this genocide, but also there is change of education in Morocco. We try for future generations to show young people that Israelis want peace as well. So we have to make a difference between the people and the government. And it's one of the points. And secondly, and what is very negative actually, is that in the US Security Council this week, they've tried to share an article with really blackmailing about the Western Tsar. So we can find a relationship between Israel and that country. Morocco's been having a very negative role for other countries, and we're making a big mistake because Egypt started with normalization with the Zionist state, and we didn't do anything in that sense. It is a struggle. So we have to take the normalization struggle as a strategic battle for all the region, because with this normalization, I believe that we will be participating on the end of the Palestinian matter. So we need to work with our Moroccan movement.
Hanne, let's go back to Europe, because what I observed that since this summer, positions in Europe are also shifting. Some countries, and I think Mustafa has already gave some examples, have started to take sanctions against Israel, and that would have been impossible, I think, 1 or 2 years ago. So what's your take on this?
Well, yeah, it has been said, but indeed, we see a big shift, especially in public opinion with the people. Everybody is clear on there is a genocide happening, and so there is a responsibility of our governments, because governments that signed the Anti-Genocide Convention should take all actions necessary to prevent a genocide. So this is what people ask from their government officials. But of course, in Europe, you have this dynamic between the European Union and the member states. Many member states, like Belgium, they refer to the European Union. They say, we will wait for action from European Parliament before we can undertake action against Israel, which is completely ridiculous, because, of course, every member state can take action, as some states in Europe showed, like Spain, like Ireland. And if there is any action taken by any government, especially the right-wing governments like we have actually in Belgium, it is always because of pressure from the streets. It is because people are mobilizing, especially the younger generation. We see a lot of students and young people in this Palestinian solidarity movement. And I think this is a source of a lot of hope, because these young people, they are learning that our governments are not taking action when a genocide is happening. This means that our world is not a secure place, that their future in Belgium is at stake. It's not only something that is happening in Palestine far away. They also campaign against the militarization of Europe, of our societies. They don't agree that the money that should go to their education is being invested in American weapons. So as we saw last Tuesday in Belgium, we had a massive trade union manifestation and a strike. And there were many, many young people carrying signs saying, stop militarization. So these are the same youngsters that fight for Palestine. They also fight for a better future, a better society in our European countries, which is a very important step to a global liberation and another world where we can all live in peace. So I'm very proud and happy to see that Palestine is indeed the moral compass, the biggest issue, the moral issue in the world, and that it is drawing so many forces, so many organizations, so many young people to action. And this is what we absolutely need to continue, because it's only when there is pressure in the street that actions are taken. And if we talk about Belgium, we saw a big shift as well at the level of politicians. They had to adapt their language. They are speaking about genocide now. They are speaking about responsibility for Israel. And they are taking small steps. The recognition of Palestine, even if it is under Zionist conditions, but it is something that wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for massive pressure. We see Israel is being treated like a pariah state in many fields. Academic, there are a lot of boycotts going on, research projects with Israeli universities that are cut down. In sports, for example, the Vuelta, where the Israeli team was under a lot of pressure. the pressure there is on FIFA for the Israeli football team. We see it in cultural events that Israeli participants are being excluded because we can't go on with normalization, as he said. This is a genocidal regime, and we should isolate them by all means possible. And it is happening, and it is doing them a lot of damage. It is making them very uncomfortable, afraid, and isolated. So this is something we absolutely need to scale up. And when we are making these steps and celebrating these BDS victories, then we put pressure on our politicians. They will be the next that follow, and they will have to change. Otherwise, they will not be re-elected next time. So I very much agree with Mustafa Barghouti that these governments will change under the pressure of the people organizing in the streets.
Okay, thank you. So that's a very helpful voice from Europe. But
by the way, Wim, I want to add something, if you allow me.
Yeah, go ahead.
The field of struggle for solidarity is not just in Europe and in Middle Eastern countries. I personally had to go to Indonesia to prevent a terrible, terrible thing that some people are pushing for, which is the ethnic cleansing of thousands of Palestinians to Indonesia. And I found out that in Indonesia, they had an island which used to host 250,000 Vietnamese at one point of time during the Vietnam War. And the people left. So it's empty. So the excuse was presented by certain people in the government that we could bring Palestinian injured people to treat them in Indonesia. But actually that was a trick to use medical and humanitarian need to justify ethnic cleansing, actually. And I think during a visit which took 5 days and included meeting all members of many members of parliament, all the parties, media and huge media campaign, and even people in the government itself, I think we managed to block that possibility. But and it was a big blow to the Israeli plans. And the other blow that happened to them was when news came about the head of the Indonesian government planning to visit Israel after Sharm el-Sheikh meeting. Again, we had the contacts with the foreign ministry there, and I don't know if he was really planning to go or not, but definitely the foreign ministry issued a statement declaring that this visit will not happen. So I think it's important to see the whole world, and one place I hope you can help us with is definitely India, which has transformed from being a very friendly country to Palestinian cause during the time of Nehru and Gandhi and later Indira Gandhi and others. Unfortunately, the Indian government is taking very pro-Israeli positions. So I think we have to also pay attention to these countries and try to facilitate and mobilize solidarity movement there with Palestine.
You're absolutely right. And I see that, for example, in the chat box, there's Dr. Jahita from Malaysia who proudly says that we Malaysians have been consistent in supporting the Palestinian and have no diplomatic ties with Israel, for example. And the Prime Minister was the patron for the Global Summit Flotilla. It's you're absolutely right, and India should be a target of the campaigns. There's a question for you, very detailed question actually, but also very interesting about the Trump plan, and especially the proposal for the technocratic Palestinian government and this with experts, and then the so-called Board of Peace, this whole Trump plan. Can you comment on this? And can we really expect that this plan would be realized? What do you think? How are we going to or what's going to happen in the next weeks and months? Is that still an option? Oh, you have to unmute. Yeah.
Trump calls it, yes, thank you. Trump calls it a peace plan. There is no peace there, and there is no plan. First of all, it's not plan at all, because it's just some ideas and blueprint of things that cannot be called a plan. Second, let's understand exactly what Trump action was. It was an action of stopping the war, that's for sure. And it stopped the war, except that Israel is trying to go back to it at this moment, and we have to be very careful. It also was, in a way, in my opinion, an admission from Trump that his plan with Israel to ethnically cleanse Palestinians in Gaza has failed. So he moved from talking about Riviera in Gaza after displacing Palestinians into accepting that all Palestinians will remain in Gaza. That's the important positive side of the matter. But on the other hand, this plan is not about peace, because it doesn't mention a single time the necessity to end occupation. It doesn't mention the right of self-determination for the Palestinian people. It does not mention the right of Palestinian people to be free and have a state of their own. None of that. And this whole talk about foreign rule of Palestinians in Gaza is an insult to the Palestinian people. Why do we need foreign rulers? We struggled for 100 years against British colonialism, and then we struggled, and we still are struggling against Israeli colonialism, not to have another foreign body to rule us in Gaza. The dangerous thing about the Trump's plan in having some kind of international supervision of the situation in Gaza is that it separates Gaza from West Bank. And by separating Gaza from West Bank in terms of administration and arrangements and so on, they are killing the whole idea of a Palestinian state. You know, the other day somebody asked him about a Palestinian state, and Trump said, you know, some people want two states, some people want one state. I don't have an opinion yet. But since he came to power the second time, he never mentioned the idea of a Palestinian state. So we, as Palestinians, all of us, reject and refuse any kind of foreign rule in Gaza. We are capable of ruling ourselves. We're capable of having very good ability to reconstruct Gaza if we have the necessary resources. We've helped build many countries in the region. People know that. So the Palestinians are just quite capable of running their own affairs. But for that, I think the agreement that we had in Beijing, which was signed by all the 14 Palestinian parties, is unfortunately ignored continuously. That agreement speaks about creating a professional, independent, transitional government for both West Bank and Gaza that would guarantee the unity of West Bank and Gaza. And also, at the same time, it would be transitional, so it would have to prepare for free democratic elections within a year or so. That is the right way. And that is the right way to preserve the right of the Palestinian people to be unified, and that Gaza is not separated from the rest of Palestine. Unfortunately, the Palestinian Authority is not implementing that agreement, the Beijing Agreement, which I know the details of it because I personally drafted it in the presence of all the parties, including of Hamas and Fatah. Unfortunately, the Palestinian Authority is not yet implementing it, although I think it's in the interest of all Palestinians, including themselves. And I think that's the best approach to protect ourselves from these plans of bringing somebody like Tony Blair. Imagine Tony Blair, what an insult to bring Tony Blair to supervise Palestinians in Gaza. Tony Blair, the war criminal, whose place is in The Hague, not in Gaza. The war criminal who was responsible for the Iraqi invasion, the invasion of Iraq, who never apologized for the lies about weapons of mass destruction, although Bush did, and who has very bad personal reputation, and who spent 7 years in a luxurious hotel in Jerusalem working for the quartet, but did nothing. So I don't think we need Blair or anybody else. We are able of ruling ourselves, but we need also to push forward that the so-called peace plan has to transform to become a true something that leads truly to peace. And peace can never happen without ending the Israeli military occupation, without ending the results of the ethnic cleansing in 1948, without allowing Palestinians to have the right of self-determination.
No, that's right. And I think you're also very much right to refer to the challenge of unity among the Palestinians. We have a lot of challenges for the international campaign and solidarity, but indeed also unity among the different Palestinian political groups is very much necessary. But while we're discussing the international pressure and international campaigns, there's this proposal now also from Gustavo Petro, from the Colombian president, for an international protection force for the Palestinians. Do you think this proposal has any chance to be realized through the United Nations?
I think it's a very good proposal, and we as civil society issued a statement supporting it. And Pingo issued that statement on behalf of Palestinian civil society. And I spoke personally to the secretary of President Petro, and we agreed to cooperate in pushing that proposal. Unfortunately, it didn't get the full support in the United Nations yet, but I think it is the right alternative to the fact that the Security Council will never take a resolution to stop the terrible Israeli behavior in Gaza Strip or to provide international protection to the Palestinian people. So I think it's something we should advocate for, we should support, and we should keep pushing for. And we're so appreciative of the Colombian president for taking this avant-garde position in pushing for that.
Yes, and I think the proposal is actually through this Uniting for Peace resolution in the General Assembly to sidestep actually this veto in the Security Council. But that will, I think we cannot discuss that in detail now, but it's indeed an interesting proposal. I see in the chat also that some of our comrades from India reassure us that the people of India are very much in solidarity with the Palestinian people, even if, of course, the government might have other positions.
That is something I am 100% sure of.
Of course.
And I hope that the people of India will be able to change their government also, not only in India, but in many other countries here in the region.
Okay. Actually, our global coordinator, Roman Vega, wanted to present our campaign actually on the fundraising. Can we bring Roman in now? Can you talk now, Roman?
Sí, Wim, gracias.
So
I'm going to
Yes,
speak
Wim,
in
thank you.
Spanish for you to understand better what we have been proposing. El
People's Health Movement through its steering council and all the entire bodies have approved to implement a solidarity campaign with the Gaza people. This webinar shows the need for this campaign because this genocidal war and the violations of the ceasefire agreed show that it is a real possibility, and the fundamental objectives of the Gaza people will not be achieved with the plan. This plan proposed by Trump administration and Netanyahu. So we will continue with a very broad and deep solidarity with Gaza and Palestine in general. Our campaign, which also has the support and participation, active participation of the Action Front for Palestine from the civil society in Colombia and other organizations who have also been demonstrating in favor of the Gaza people, and also the support of the Colombian government. We have met the Colombian government some days ago, and we have the goal with this campaign of raising 220,000 euros in Colombian pesos. This would be a billion Colombian pesos in a term of 4 months. This campaign will be launched this week. This next week we will be launching this campaign, and in the case of Colombia, we will have a special event to launch this campaign with the participation of our comrade Aziz, who will be here at the meeting of the International Federation for Human Rights. Sadly, our comrade Hanne cannot be there, but that would be wonderful if that could happen. We also met 2 Colombian women who were in the flotilla, and with them we were at the government's house with President Petro last Friday, and they have also told us that they will enthusiastically participate in the launching of this campaign here, in Colombia. This is a world campaign that will involve all the regions of the People's Health Movement, all the countries, but all our allies and movements and organizations allied to People's Health Movement, who deeply support this solidarity campaign, because we think that we will achieve our goal. And this goal of raising funds will help rebuild 3 of the most important health centers where the People's Health Movement is involved with. First of all, we have the Palestine Medical Relief Society, Hospital Al-Auda. We are committed, firmly committed, with our comrades who put their lives at risk and do everything to help the Palestine people. And this is how this movement understands the situation. And the same goes for the Colombian government, which is also studying all of this, among many other initiatives that we have learned about this Friday. They're working on global support of the medical and health services in Palestine. So I will invite you all to multiply this initiative You can see the essential guidelines in the link that we have shared in the chat, but we need creativity in all countries. We need creativity in all territories in the world, and this means many different ways of promoting this campaign so that we can raise the funds. Not only the mechanisms that you can see in the link will be necessary to raise the funds, we also need multiple community initiatives. For instance, in Colombia, we are thinking of having cultural activities with the participation of artists, trade unions, workers' federations, for example, education workers' federations. And they are also planning different educational processes that will allow to raise funds through these community initiatives, and so that the political solidarity campaigns can be strengthened. So I think this is the way. This is an initiative that should involve organizations and movements, and should in a way involve governments, so that they can understand that continuing with solidarity is a right, it's a moral commitment, and it's a political commitment for the true freedom of the Palestinian people. Thank you, Wim.
Thank you, Roman. And actually, I think we have covered everything that we wanted to cover in the webinar. And there's only a couple of minutes left, but I would like to give the opportunity to our three panelists to give us their short, very brief final statements, and especially on the challenges for the People's Health Movement in this new period. What should we do? What do you think we should focus on? Just in a short statement. Shall we start with Aziz? Otherwise...
Merci, Wim. Je pense qu'on doit saisir toutes les occasions qui vont se porter devant nous. Premièrement, c'est ce qui va se passer à Bogota, comme a dit notre camarade Roman.
Well, you're going to support as well. But this is, as Roman said, we will have their support. We will have a strong statement for Palestine, and this will be the roadmap for the next steps of the federation. And we should have a new dynamic in Asia and Africa regarding solidarity for Palestine. And we should not just stay here with these discussions and debates. In my opinion, Trump's plan we will need to have perhaps more meetings every 2 weeks, because in the end if the Palestine
do you still have a statement for us?
For us, Palestine goes from the river to the ocean.
Yes, we should absolutely continue talking about Palestine, because there is a small risk that some people will believe that a ceasefire and a so-called peace plan will improve things for Palestinians without actions from the people. So we should really continue to fire this movement and to answer the call of Palestinians and be inspired by their resistance. The fact that Palestinians are staying in Gaza is a massive victory of their resistance and the global movement. So this global movement has to continue. As health workers, we should also focus on our medical institutions, on drug companies like Teva from Israel that we need to boycott. So we need to stand in solidarity with our Palestinian colleagues, help them to lead the reconstruction of their health system. And so we will support this campaign. We will use all the international connections we built during the flotillas. 47 countries were coming together in one civilian initiative. So all these contacts we had, all these good examples of movements from all over the world, we need to connect them to continue to make this big wave together with the Palestinian people to free Palestine entirely.
Okay, thank you. And indeed, like boycott, divestment, and sanctions is one of the campaigns we're also carrying with the PHM, with the People's Health Movement. Mustafa.
Well, thank you. Thank you all. I want to thank Roman and Roman Vega for the campaign they are conducting now to help us reconstruct our destroyed clinics, because they are so much needed by the people. But I totally agree with Hanne and with Aziz. Nobody should feel that the war is over or that the fight is over. We have to now, that's the biggest risk, that the international solidarity movement could weaken. We should not allow that to happen. On the contrary, it should get stronger. And as was said, the goal is freedom. The goal is not just to stop the war, but to achieve freedom from this terrible oppression we are subjected to. But I can say now, I mean, it's too early to celebrate, of course, and we will celebrate really when we get our freedom. But we have to celebrate the fact that the main goal of the Israeli genocide, the main goal of the Israeli collective punishment, the main goal of starvation, the main goal of this atrocity has failed. The ethnic cleansing has failed, and the people are steadfast on their ground. And that is a very, very, very big strategic achievement that will affect the struggle in the coming years. Thank you so much.
Yes, indeed, we'll not allow the movement to weaken. That's our commitment after this webinar. But let me thank you first. Thank you to the three panelists. Also, thank you to the interpreters. Thanks also to Miguel, who helped with the behind the scenes with the logistics. My main takeaway actually is hope, and I will remember that Dr. Mustafa talked about his visit to South Africa and how the South Africans shared that even in their campaign against apartheid, they have never seen this level of international solidarity that we are seeing today on Palestine or with Palestine. And that should give us hope, because apartheid has become history. And that means that occupation of Palestine one day probably will also become history. So we'll do anything that we can to make that happen. So thank you all, and we'll be together in the struggle.
And thank you, Wim, for your good organization. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Yeah.